Hi guys, hopefully you're having a great Tuesday. Miss Shaw here. And today you guys are introing some operations. So some adding, subtracting, some multiplying and dividing of different functions. Now, if we're taking a look at this first slide, this first slide is actually just a review of some Algebra 1 topics. So when we add and subtract, really what we're doing here is we're just combining like terms. So for example, like you guys saw in that key on that next slide, if we have f of x and that is equal to 4x plus 1, and we have g of x and that's equal to 2x squared plus 3, well, if we're adding or subtracting them, we're really just combining like terms. F of x is 4x plus 1, g of x is 2x squared plus 3, so therefore the 4x does not combine, 2x squared does not combine, the 1 and the 3, those do combine, so we can have an overall function of 2x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then same thing with subtraction. Just like we talked about in Algebra 1, and I'm sure you guys are all aware of, but if not, it's a good refresher. When you are subtracting a function with a function, you do want to put that second function in parentheses because the subtraction is actually being applied to every term inside the function. So therefore, it changes the sign of 2x squared to negative 2x squared, and it changes the sign of 3 to negative 3. And then we end up getting this value of negative 2x squared plus 4x minus 2. And really, this notation right here, f of x plus g of x, and f of x minus g of x, is the notation that we were introduced to in Algebra 1. But if you guys flip to that next slide, we're still combining like terms just like we were from Algebra 1, but now notice the notation looks a little bit different, okay? Now we might see f plus g times x. Well, think about what we see here. We see here some multiplication, and we might be thinking to ourselves, okay, well, f of what? F of x, f of y, f of z. But, what this is really doing is it's combining the variable, right? X, just right there. It has that variable, but it's just combining that coefficient part of this. So if you think about multiplication, f times x is f of x, and then g times x is g of x. So really, if you think of it, f of x is 4x plus 1, and g of x is 2x squared plus 3. So if you look, we're actually getting the same answer. It's written a little bit differently, but we are getting the same answer here. Okay. Same thing over here. F minus g is one quantity times x is the second quantity. Well, we can go ahead and think about this multiplication, and this turns into f times x minus g of x, just like this. Okay. And really, our answer is not any different than the answers we had on the other slide. The only thing that looks different here is the way that the notation of what's being asked of you to do is written, right? Now, instead of f of x plus g of x, we have f plus g times x, or we have f minus g times x. Now, on this slide, it doesn't really give you much room besides just, filling this in and finding the value. But, under this watch video sign, if you guys can follow along on this slide, where are we going with this? Well, eventually we're going to start taking a look at functions that look like this, g of f of x, okay? And this is just another way of multiplying g of f of x. So for example, if g of x is 2x squared plus 3, whenever you see this x value, you're going to plug in 4x plus 1. So eventually this turns into 2 times 4x plus 1 squared plus 3. And then you'd have to evaluate, okay? Where else do we see this going? Okay, well, maybe this ends up taking it to the next level of g of f of negative 5, right? Well, now we have to figure out what's going on the inside first. Okay, well, f of x is 4x plus 1, so this is 4 times negative 5 plus 1. So this turns into g of negative 20 plus 1 is negative 19. So g of x is 2 times negative 19 squared plus 3. So, this is not meant to confuse you guys. This is just meant to kind of talk about notation, right? We went from this very first slide of seeing notation how we normally see it, f of x plus g of x, f of x minus g of x, to now we see some notation that looks a little bit different, f plus g times x, or f minus g times x. And really, long story short is that they mean the exact same thing. It's just the way the notation is written. Now, when we come back together on Thursday, we are going to start getting into some of these other operations, the multiplication, the substitution. As you guys will come to see on the next couple of slides, when we multiply and divide, we're going to be thinking back to first semester when we dealt with functions, when we dealt with rational functions, because there's going to be some other things going on with its graphs, with domain and range. So really this last unit ties in a bunch of those key ideas from first semester, and it kind of comes full circle and just wraps it up in a nice present with a bow on top. But please don't get caught up in this. This is just something to think about as we move into the next week or two. Okay. But your assignment for today in class, since I'm not there, is to go through the Pear Deck and finish each slide. You'll notice that each slide asks you to evaluate, so to perform the operation addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And then the slide immediately following will show the answer key and will show the work. Okay. Now, if you have any questions, any confusion, anything that I can help add, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email or to sign up for some office hours on Wednesday. All right. You guys are doing a really great job. I'm sorry I can't be there with you today, but I will see you on Thursday. Goodbye, everyone.